just going to assume it's still working. So the first decision I have to make is what I'm going to use. So now it says I've gone live. So let's go back and start again. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to transform these scraps of fabric, which are often left over from other sewing projects, but I don't want to throw them away, into these lovely scrap brooches. So I'm going to change the camera down now so you can see what I'm going to be using. Now, sometimes my camera is a little temperamental, so I'm hoping today that isn't going to be the case. There we go. So I've got my lovely scraps of fabrics. Got a small piece of felt, which is going to be what I'm going to stitch them onto. Some ordinary sewing thread, some embroidery thread, and I've taken the liberty of actually threading a needle already, so you don't have to sit and watch me having to thread it. So the first decision to make is what size and shape do you want your brooch to be? Well, you can see I've got a sort of rectangle, couple of rectangles, and I've got a square. However, yours can be whatever size and shape you like. So for the purposes of this one, mine is, where's my ruler? It is about 3 inches by 1.5 inches, which is metric is 8 centimeters by 4. So that's the size of my felt. Now, I tend to like to have a colour theme to the projects I do, which you might notice with some of the others. So for this particular brooch, my colour theme is blue. As I live by the sea, that's probably not unusual. So now I've got to decide which pieces and what size I want to put them onto my felt. So I'm going to just start cutting up some. Now, I don't worry about the raw edges, but if you do, make sure you fold your raw edges in. So let's just place that one there. And then what am I going to use? I quite like the look of this. I think this is a little bit of silk fabric. So I was going to cut that up, trim off that sort of frayed end, lay that one over there. And then what are we going to, oh, let's have a little bit of a dark one next. So don't think I've got an actual audience at the moment, but that's okay because I haven't really got this worked out yet, but we'll give it a shot. So let's put that there. Do I like that there? Not sure. But I do like it there. It's all about placing your pieces before you even pin them down or stitch them. Just trim that bit off. Get that. So as you can see, I'm not measuring the pieces that I'm using because that's not me. But if you need to measure them, obviously do that. So I think I quite like that one there. And now I think I'm going to add in, let's have a little look. Oh, I rather like this one. So I'm going to add in a little piece of this. Not quite sure how big I want it. No, it's slightly too big. So let's just trim that down a bit. There we go. I'll move that out, move those out of the way. Turn it around. It's not quite big enough that way. No, that's okay. And then I need a little strip just there. So let's have a look at a little piece of this, which is rather nice. How big do I want it? Not really sure about that. So I think I'm just going to take some bits off for the minute and maybe rearrange them slightly. so that I've got that one there, that one there, that one. Where are you? No, I think I might have cut another piece. Maybe just have, yes, that's a more pleasing arrangement to me. So I was going to move all these little bits out of the way now. Now, you can, of course, just pin them onto the felt if you wish. What I actually like to do, because it saves me having to stop and keep taking the pins out, I've just got my little glue stick. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the glue stick just to anchor the pieces enough so that I can then go ahead and stitch them down. Let's put a little bit on this one. Doesn't need to be a huge amount. Just stops them being annoying and moving about when you're trying to stitch them. A little bit on here. Sometimes as well, you might find when you're doing this, it does change the slight way that you put them on originally. That happens, well, just take a view on whether you like that or whether you want to move it again. So let me just move that one down a wee bit. Got them all slightly anchored, put my glue stick away. Now I took the precaution of threading my sewing needle beforehand, so you don't have to sit and watch me try and thread my needle. So hopefully it won't undo. It's quite long, so I might just trim it a bit. So what I'm going to do now is a little bit of what's called invisible basting, or actually what I call it sometimes not quite invisible basting. So I'm just doing a couple of little stitches on the back of the felt to anchor the thread instead of a knot, because I find making knots in single threads quite tricky. So what I'm going to do now is just come through to the right side here and then just do a little tiny stitch, and then at the back there'll be a longer stitch because I've moved along a little bit further. Another little tiny stitch here. So what this does is just anchors the pieces, so until I'm ready to decide what stitching, what decorative stitching I might want to use. I'm just going to go up to here now. Another little stitch. Like I said, it's called invisible basting, but I call it almost invisible because sometimes you can just see a little bit of the stitch. Now on the back, you might see that I've got long stitches, which is as it should be. So I'm going along here now. And the trouble is, if you get your needle right back into that hole, you'll do a little bit of reverse stitching because it will come out, which can be very annoying. So I'm now going to move along here and invisibly stitch this one as well. Sometimes I'll just attach one piece at a time, but I thought for the purposes of this, I'll attach them all at once. And then you can see how they look when they've all been stitched together and attached onto the felt. And I'll show you what I might do with a plain piece as opposed to what I do with a patterned piece. Who's having a look? Looks like somebody's well, hope whoever's watching is enjoying this, and if you're not watching it live, you should be able to find it on my YouTube channel later, and the playlist it's on is Crafts in the Kitchen, because where I'm sitting right now is our kitchen. So I'm nearly done with the round here. So hopefully you get the idea that this is just, you could, like I said, you could just keep the pins in, or you can do more traditional tacking, which you would take out later. The nice thing with the invisible basting is that you don't have to take out the tacking later. So that saves one step. You can just then go on to whatever decorating you want to do on your pieces. So I'm nearly done all around the outside edge. But what I'm going to do now is just come down here and secure these inner pieces. If you are like me, someone who does a reasonable amount of sewing, and then you're often left with all of these scraps, but you can't bear to throw them away, this is just one thing you can do with them, which turns them into unwanted bits of fabric, unwanted bits of fabric into unique little brooches. Oh, hi Viv, nice to see you there. This is probably, I think, my first live video on YouTube. So I thought, let's just give it a go, as I haven't done any videos on my channel for a while. Right, so there we are. So all my pieces are basically attached. So I'm just going to do a couple of little overstitches at the back again, and then cut that off. Now, that's my basic pieces attached. Now, sometimes what I tend to do on the plain pieces, as I've done here, is lots of little running stitch. Now, you can, of course, do that all over if you wish, or you can add in lots of stitching down the edges. What I'm going to do now is show you how I then attach this to my backing fabric, because when you look at these, you'll see you can't actually see any of the stitching on the back. So what I like to do, I've got a piece of card here. I think this one's from a tea bag box. Could be from a cereal box. What I like to do is put a piece of this in between this and I'll need a larger piece of backing fabric in a moment. So I'm just going to cut the card so it's slightly smaller than the fabric. So that the card was 8, so I'm going to make that about 7.5 by, what was that? That was 4. So I'm going to make that about 3.5. Just because I don't really want that sort of intruding outside my brooch, my backing, my fabric piece. So let's just cut that. And now I can again use my lovely glue stick to attach this to the felt. I like felt as the background to stitch the pieces onto, because it gives quite a nice feel to it. But of course you can use other fabrics if you wish. Oh yes, it is lots of other uses as well. Now, I'm just going to move over a moment to grab a bigger piece of fabric because I put that to one side. Here we are. So this is a lovely piece of fabric that I'm now going to use for the back. So again, I'm just going to cut this. Oh, hi, Nancy. Yeah, Nancy, there will be more. There are other videos on my channel at the moment. But yes, there will be more coming. I like the reason my videos, this playlist is called Crafts in the Kitchen. It's because I like to show you things that mean you don't have to have a massive studio of stuff, and you don't even have to have, I'm just measuring that, you don't even have to have a dedicated studio or workspace because not everybody does. So this is why I'm here. I do have a workroom upstairs, but sometimes it's nice to have a change of view. So let's just have a look, see how that's looking. Yeah, that looks quite nice. However, before I stitch this onto the back, I'm going to add my brooch back. Now, these I buy from, you can buy them from craft shops and bead suppliers. If you don't have access to those, a good old safety pin will work. However, a little note to remember, if you're going to do a safety pin, do stitch this side down, not this side, otherwise you won't be able to undo it. I'm going to use my brooch back. Now I'm going to undo it to be able to stitch it when I can get it undone. So where's my lovely needle and thread gone? Yes, it's wandered off. How very vexing. That is very vexing. Right, well, let's just grab something that isn't necessarily the right colour, but it's threaded into a needle. Oh, it was. It's not now. So let's go through, let's get the embroidery thread and a needle. You can tell sometimes you think everything is sorted and ready to go, and then you discover it actually isn't. Right. So I'm going to attach my brooch back. You can do this either before, as I'm doing, or after. I like doing it this way just because it seems a bit easier to me. It means I can go through to attach the other side. So here we're almost there. Quite nice. The brooch backs come in different colours and in different sizes. So obviously, if you make a smaller brooch, you'll need a smaller brooch back. I like the silver coloured ones because that's just my particular preference. Now, hopefully, what I couldn't work out before I did my live video was how to do the trailer. So I think that tells me that the next time I need to do the trailer first and then create the video. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, because previously I've done pre-recorded videos on my channel, but this time I thought, let's just go for it. Now, if I can find the hole to come through in it, it'll be wonderful. There we are. So I'm going to try to produce more regular videos for my channel than I have lately on a variety of topics. Right, so I think that's probably anchored enough for the purposes of this. Obviously, normally I would do a lot more stitching to anchor it, but right, so let's just cut that off. So now I'm going to attach it to my actual backing. When I get it to close, there we are. So I'm going to use my lovely glue stick just to anchor it a little bit. Pop it on. Now, I like to use a blanket stitch for attaching, sewing around the edges. If you're not au fait with blanket stitch, I will attempt to show you, but there are lots of videos on the lovely YouTube where you can see it. So I'm going to start from the back. Now, a blanket stitch for me goes from left to right. So that's what I'm doing. So I've come through, so I'm going to go back from the wrong side up again. So I've created my first stitch. Clearly the glue stick isn't working as well as it should. So now I'm going to do my next stitch, going to move a little bit further along, go through from the front to the back, making sure my needle is inside that loop. And then I'm going to carry on. Now, I'm not going to stitch all the way around. I'll show you on my here's ones I made earlier, but I'm just going to do a little bit more. So this will stitch all the pieces together of my fabric sandwich. Let's do, making sure I'm catching them on the back. Now, if by chance I go through the piece of card as well, that's okay, because that means I'm certain I've gone through, right through. So I'm going to stop this now and just show you. So I've made a start now on stitching this together, but I want to show you here. So you can see I've used blanket stitch all the way around on this one to anchor it together. I've done just little bits of running stitch down here and here as a bit of decoration. This one, again, blanket stitch, but there's nothing to stop you doing a simple running stitch to sew it together, or even just an overstitch. And here I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces with bits of running stitch. So before I finish, I want to show you a completely different brooch I made with exactly the same idea of using the scraps of fabrics, but this is using one of my lovely little templates of a crow. So I'm going to now end this live video. So if you have liked what you've seen, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again soon for more videos on crafts in the kitchen. Thank you. Bye.